Well, my initial reaction goes back to when they made the call. I knew that the NFL office, because especially games that are like that in prime time, this is a game potentially where stopping the Saints from going to the Super Bowl. We don't know that. They probably had first and goal at the 5-yard line. It definitely enhances their chances. But when you have replay, you want to try to get it right as many times as possible. And there's too many fans that that the game is dependent on them to continue watching the game. So the last couple times they've changed rules, being with the catch and a couple other rules. This one, it's based on what the fans want. But what I like about this one was this was driven by the competition committee, Sean Payton being one of those coaches, Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, Jason Garrett. Those are the coaches that wanted this change also. So I don't want the NFL to be at the mercy of their consumer, that being the fan. Yes, we want the fan to understand the game, but it's important that the people that are playing the game and people that are coaching the game, they understand the new. So I do like it from their standpoint because the coaches wanted this. Now you can get it right, not perfect. What's the old saying? Don't worry about hitting perfect on the way to better. Because this is better than what we had. I like the fact that it's a trial. They did this in the CFL as far as being able to review these types of plays. They didn't ultimately end up keeping it, but they did try it out. I believe, though, just like most of the other rules, it's a huge advantage to the offense, which most of the rule changes, because, I mean, the defense, pass routes, this is not only going to challenge where the ball is, but if I run a pass route that's 20 yards, 30 yards down, I got the eye in the sky watching this guy the whole way. So it might not be when the ball's in the air, but I also have ability. Did he grab me? Did he clutch me at the top of the route? Did he stop my momentum? Did he go inside the cylinder of my body? Did I have a right to that space? I just believe that as you go along, you'll see it's a huge advantage for the offense again.
Well, and you mentioned the fans. I will make a prediction here. I think that the fans are going to hate this rule change by week 5 or 6. Because what you now have is take one of the defining plays of not the NFC Championship game, an obvious, egregious missed call that is remembered because it is such an outlier amongst missed calls. Take the end of the Super Bowl. The play before the Stephon Gilmore interception. The great pass breakup on Brandon Cooks. This play right there. They used this play as evidence as something that would be reviewed and called pass interference. In real time, that is a great defensive play. And if you can't do that in the NFL, I don't know how you play pass defense in the NFL. The fact that they spot shadowed or highlighted this play as, yes, if you threw a challenge flag on this play, Sean McVay, under the new rules, we would change it to pass interference. That's the new NFL. And whether the fans' opinion should be taken into account or not is up for debate. But I will tell you, the fans will not like that. And one thing that I didn't hear people discussing, at least in large part since this rule came out, is what about Hail Marys? There is simply an understood acceptance that Hail Marys, it has to be egregious.
Yeah, I think the players will adjust to that one very easy. Because when you implement your Hail Mary defense, you implement that knowing that the rule changes are there.
So you think, I just want to make sure I understand, you think it's not that they will keep almost the gentleman's agreement as far as how they apply pass interference to Hail Marys. You don't think that will stay the same. What you think is, since the rules they're going to be able to review it, the players will change the way they do it?
I mean, every year we have rules that are points of emphasis. We have a list of things that we do in adjusting to what the current season. Earlier in the season, we know they're going to err on the side of throwing more flags, having more reviews. But when you implement the Hail Mary, now you'll know, based on what the rule is, listen, guys, when the ball is on its way down, they're not going to let you just jostle and do those things. So that right there is easy to correct because it's very, very predictable. You know the time in the game. You know it's going to happen. But typically a Hail Mary, it happens at the end anyway where you could review it already. So now that these plays will be in scope, I think that's an easy teaching tool for the defenders to be able to adjust compared to how do I guard this guy? How do I not grab him, which I typically were doing during the route compared to at the end of it, where now you review that play, and now they're going to call it. So I think it just becomes more and more difficult for a defender in the NFL.
All right, so I heard what both of you had to say. Nick, I'll ask you, does this help then or hurt the integrity of the game?
Well, I guess it depends on your definition of the word integrity. We hear in replay, with replay across all sports, we hear nothing is more important than getting it right. And I would argue on the play, obviously this play was horribly wrong. And it was an outlier play. It was maybe the worst missed call in the NFL all season. And typically in life, I don't like to change rules or change the way we do things because of a 1 in 1,000 play. But the play in the Super Bowl that we showed is not a 1 in 1,000 play. And for the majority of NFL history, this play is great defense. Is it getting it right that is now pass interference? So is it getting it right because according to the letter of the law, that's always been pass interference, but according to the way the game has been officiated, that has been called good defense?
Yeah, I believe that players will adjust to it. The NFL does a great job of implementing the new rules and teaching the players. It's no different than they went for targeting when that rule changed. Now, there were a few outlaws in the league, and I mean, they were outlawed. Forget what the law is. So we're still going to be taking people's head off. But the learning and what they taught players have adjusted to it. So you see it less and less involved in the game. The NFL is a passing game. Last year, 237 pass interference penalties called, and now you add the potential that I can review it. I mean, and now these other types of plays, so it becomes more and more. As far as the integrity of the game, to answer that question, the fan feels better at the end of the day if they feel like you can utilize all the tools, and that's what replay is. It's not going to be perfect. Does it make the game better? Because, yes, now you go into the game, you have more tools that be like, okay, there's less probability of missing calls compared to now. It's just like the wins and losses at the casino. What fans are going to remember is when it's against their team. They won't remember when it did benefit their team. But I think the integrity of the game, looking at this call, the reaction to it, I think that the integrity of the game, you get a more satisfactory, I'm more satisfied with the product because of this option.
But, Nick, does this become a slippery slope then? They do it on holding calls. They do it on this. They do it on that. Is it just the start of
I think the more we implement replay, eventually more things become reviewable. I'm not so worried about the slippery slope part of it because we can deal with the this and the here and now. Right now, we know that the league office or the NFL owners and the competition committee were against a lot of changes that would be the slippery slope variety. So I think the NFL is a conservative enough league that we're not going to see systemic change overnight. But I also think every team in the league, once the league meetings are over, needs to, GM, coach, owner, if they want to get involved, it is imperative that you have, and I don't know if it's a new staff member or a new focus on, it is going to be critical who is watching your replays to tell your coach they missed it challenge. That is an even bigger part of the game now as far as your support staff or your head coach on Sunday.
I don't think you need to go outside the coaching staff. You can go to the coaching staff that's not on the field. Your offense is on the field, defensive staff led by the defensive coordinator. They've pretty much made their adjustments as far as what they're going to do the next series. They should be watching it. Trying to bring someone outside of that sanctity of the football coach, I don't think that's going to happen. But also, just slow down just a little bit. Last year we had the roughing the passer. First quarter of the season, man, I can't believe we're calling this. Man, we can't believe. When you start getting to the playoffs in the Super Bowl, what ended up happening? They end up venturing back. So now, typically there's always an adjustment period. I believe the players will adjust. Fans will adjust, but the game is better today because you have this power to be able to go to something earlier in the game, not in that 2 minutes, to be able to get it right.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.